Hello, this is Jeff Malone. The X is silent, here with a review of the November 3rd, 2012 episode of Saturday Night Live, hosted by Louis C.K. and with musical guest fun. Let's get through the sketches. We had a few great sketches. The monologue was pretty great. The Lincoln sketch was great. The Lincoln pre-filmed a bit. And then we also had the return of the girl you wish you hadn't started a conversation with at a party back on Update. Monologue, just, it's always great when an actual stand-up comedian is hosting the show, because then that just takes care of the monologue right there. And the girl you wish you hadn't started a conversation with at a party, pretty similar to the first appearance, but different enough that it was still terrific. So I'm not sure how much more they can wring out of that character, but I'll be willing to find out. And okay, then the Lincoln bit, which was like Louis' TV show, Louis, as if instead of Louis it were Abraham Lincoln. Excellent premise. As this sketch started with Louis at a bar sitting next to Keenan's former slave character. You're like, what is this? Oh, cool. A pre-filmed bit in the post-digital short era. Let's see what's going on here. Like, okay, I'm liking this. I'm getting a Louis vibe here. And then it cuts to the opening credits, and it is a straight-up parody of Louis, and I'm like, oh my god. This is it. All right. Just, we're in for a treat. Thank you very much. And indeed, it was a treat for the rest of the sketch as well, and it is thus far the best sketch of the season. Okay, the good sketches, we had Fox and Friends, always a solid sketch. Seth actually had a decent night on Update. Jason as Mitt Romney on Update. Courtney Barnes, the correspondent on Update, talking about the political conversation on social media. And the hotel checkout with all the crazy fees, and the last sketch of the night, Last Call, which might at this point actually be the best 10-to-1 sketch so far this season. That sketch also had a bit of a Louis vibe, or, well, like Louis C.K.'s style of comedy, not necessarily the vibe of his show, Louis, but definitely a vibe of his style of humor and observation. The mediocre, the cold opening, the press conference with Bloomberg and Chris Christie, the Australian screen legends, then the Mountain Pass. Now the Australian screen legends, I was worried that might be a bit offensive to Australians. The idea that they're laid back about everything, sex or the death of a loved one or your husband revealing that he's gay, that I thought that was a pretty solid observation about the Australian psyche. Having spent a semester abroad in Australia, I can vouch that, in my experiences at least, Australians are generally a laid-back people. But what I thought might be offensive was the accents, which were just so broad, and I don't know any Australian person who has that ridiculous an accent, that, that much of it, like an outback. Oi, I'm tired, so I couldn't really get into it that well, but if you saw the sketch, you know what I'm talking about anyway. So As let's see. Well, was it offensive? Well, at least not for one particular Australian. I was watching VH1's Big Morning Buzz Live, their morning talk show this morning, and they've got one of their correspondents, Jason Dundas, is from Australia, and he loved the sketch. He's like, "Yep, yeah, that's Australians for you." So there's at least one Australian who not only didn't find it offensive, but just loved it. And like, you know what? Well, that makes sense because Australians are laid back. So even if it were really offensive, it'd be no big deal. Okay, and then the Mountain Pass sketch. This was interesting. It seemed to be like purposely awful, with Louis and just blowing a horn, trying to summon Zog. And if you're gonna have a sketch that is that essentially awful, Louis C.K. is a good person to have in that sketch. At least that's my take, because he was clearly aware of just how stupid it was, and did not try to hide that on his face or his delivery, and made the sketch all the better for it. No bad sketches. As for Fun's performances, well, they did what they do. I suppose you can say that. I wouldn't complain. Overall, I would give this episode 8 Jeffs out of 10. Louis definitely brought his style in there. I think I would easily pick him for best host of the season so far. Not every sketch had particularly Louis style humor, but he was willing to commit himself to all of his characters, but he also had an attitude of like, this, for at least a few sketches where it's like, oh, this is just stupid, but I'm doing it anyway. I'm doing it at least for the experience, and it made some potentially bad sketches much more palatable. So thank you, Louis. Okay, next week, this upcoming November 9th, we've got Anne Hathaway for her 3rd time hosting, and Rihanna for her 4th time as musical guest in the past 4 seasons. So that should be a decent lineup.